A big free agent has signed with SmackDown. CM Punk's SmackDown return has been confirmed, and we've got an update on Bryan Danielson's involvement in CM Punk's AEW Firing. Stay tuned for some wrestling news. It was quite a big episode of SmackDown last night. We had the SmackDown return of one Randy Keith Orton.
Big Randall Keith?
Big Randall Keith. Randall Keith. Randall Keith. It was
also son of Big Bob.
Big Bob, that is his father, and it was nice to see Randy back on the blue brand.
Yeah,
it's been some time. Obviously, he's been out injured for the past 18 months almost, and he made his return at Survivor Series this past weekend. He appeared on Raw, and it looked like, personally for me, I thought that was where he was going to be. I thought he was going to be a Monday Night Raw superstar.
SmackDown's kind of loaded right now, and it's like I've always been more partial to SmackDown. I guess I've got a SmackDown bias, but I was after last night, I was like, yeah, you know what?
I'm happy.
I'll take that.
Well, you were saying that. He's now signed with SmackDown officially. He was a free agent. He was enlisted internally as a free agent in WWE. But he has signed with SmackDown. That is where you will get all your Randy Orton content. On last night's show, he came to the ring, and both Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce were trying to sign him. Obviously, he's a big name. Nick Aldis was like, well, I can give you the bloodline, whereas Adam Pearce was like, well, I can give you the winner of Jey Uso versus Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title, immediately putting him in the title picture. However, this brought Paul Heyman out.
Yeah.
And then this brought Solo Sikoa out.
And it all just went off the rails.
It did. We got a big pop for LA Knight coming out to help. We got Randy Orton in there.
They started beating him down, and then LA Knight's music hit. Everybody went mental.
Exactly, as they should. It's LA Knight. Then Randy Orton obviously took out Jimmy, took out Solo. And then we've got this now set up as a possible match going forward. We've got some teases for the Bloodline Randy Orton. He then picked up both contracts.
Where's he going to sign? What's he going to do?
He threw Raws on the ground. Hit the signature on SmackDown. We've got him on SmackDown.
And then he nailed not Adam Pearce. He nailed
Nick Aldis.
Nick Aldis
with a sick RKO out of nowhere. I'm really excited to see what he can do. You mentioned that SmackDown's quite stacked, but just once you mentioned that there, my mind is racing as to all the names on Raw, and oh my God, is Raw stacked?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of both shows are these days. I guess I'm just more partial to SmackDown.
It's the SmackDown 6, the nostalgia of that, and the blue brand. Yeah. I think I do agree. SmackDown has had some of the better product over the past year or so in WWE, but Randy Orton being on SmackDown is a big deal. I'm hyped to see him there. Shame he won't be on Raw though, because we've got a lot of history with Cody Rhodes on there. We've got a lot of history with Seth Rollins on there.
It's so much. It's only a matter of time, right? It's only a matter of time.
I'm excited to see what he does next. But on SmackDown also, there was a tournament announced for the United States Championship. Logan Paul won his return to SmackDown last night as his first appearance as US champion on the show, which is crazy. He announced the #1 contendership tournament for the United States Championship. The participants include Kevin Owens, Big Bobby Lashley, Austin Theory, Grayson Waller, Santos Escobar, Dragon Lee, Karrion Kross, and a mystery NXT superstar. Who do you think of the NXT guys?
I don't know.
It's like, I'm racing. I'm thinking Braun Breaker.
What if they swerve us and it's just Baron Corbin?
I would love that. I would burn the ships to have Baron Corbin appear on NXT. I think that would be a fantastic, or on SmackDown. He needs to be back on the main roster.
He's doing magic down there though, and looking like he's having an absolute blast.
He's having a blast on that one. I think if it's going to be out, for me, it's either Braun Breaker or come Tuesday himself.
I want to see Theory and Waller have to go at it. So I'm hoping they get arranged as such in the brackets where, at some point they're going to have to face off. But we had a whole segment. Obviously, Kevin Owens came out, addressed him, ran down Prime. He's like, so that crap drink you peddle. And then out came Waller, out came Theory. And they sort of, they kind of threw their hat in the ring at that point, really.
Who do you think is going to win the tournament? Out of the names that we've had, obviously NXT is the one that we're speculating on, but who's going to actually win?
Owens is just so central that I feel like it's got to be Owens.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to be swerved with it.
I'm really surprised that one of the names, a name that I expected to be in there, LA Knight. I'm surprised he's not in the mix for that US title. I think a lot of people have been speculating that
maybe we're just still keeping him in and around the upper picture,
keeping in the world title. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I'm game for that, but I was fully expecting LA Knight to be the guy that takes the belt from Logan Paul. Maybe they'll do it down the line, but right now, not on the cards. But what is on the cards next week on SmackDown? Sam, are you hyped for it?
I'm absolutely hyped because it was announced that CM Punk is set to appear on next week's episode for the first time in nearly 10 years. He's also currently listed internally as a free agent, so I expect to see him popping up across both shows for the foreseeable future.
Yep.
To be honest, they might keep that on him until the next draft. I remember when Austin was a free agent, right? It just felt more special. When you've got somebody who is just not bound to a brand and everybody else is, it kind of allows them so much freedom with what they can do with him. We are expecting to see him go up against Seth, so I imagine he's going to settle into Raw for a little bit. But then there's all the speculation, him and Heyman, him and Roman, and there's sort of a lot going on there.
There's some stuff there that we'll get to later on, but CM Punk appearing on SmackDown. As I mentioned in the free agent thing, it does make sense to have him in that role for a business standpoint as well. If, let's say that there's a show that you've not got loaded up as well, or the audience isn't quite there, which is strange.
Whack him on the card.
Yeah, WWE's been selling out pretty well, but if they do need to big boost in sales, well, just chuck CM Punk on the show. And it looks like we're not going to get him on Raw this week. He's not advertised currently. So the next time you will see CM Punk is next week's SmackDown.
Friday.
Next Friday night on Fox, which is his big SmackDown return. But now we do have an update on WWE offering big money deals to re-sign talent.
Yeah, so we'd heard recently, obviously, that it was like WWE were getting out way ahead. It was sort of like what Tony Khan was doing, where he was just getting out way ahead of the time just to get contracts sort of sorted for talent, like 2-3 years out.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people in AEW signed to like 5-year deals.
Yeah, and it sort of makes sense for WWE to do the same. So what's the update?
So in the update from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it says that talents whose deals are up within the next 18 months, some of them haven't been approached yet. Been approached yet to sign a new deal, despite the speculation and the assumption, as Sam was saying, that you would think they would get ahead of these things.
Well, we've been hearing that certain talent had already had this kind of thing happen with WWE.
Yeah,
it's looking like they're going to allow some contracts to expire
or run very, very close to it. The feeling is reportedly that if and when Tony Khan gets a new TV deal for AEW, and it's a big increase in money, then he will be looking to sign some main roster talent from WWE, as he'd be able to fiscally afford them. The report notes that in the past, people who were interested in going didn't get a significant offer because it didn't make financial sense to AEW. It's just very interesting on the WWE side. We know, for example, Drew McIntyre is not signed past WrestleMania. That is reportedly when his contract expires.
A lot of speculation around him and a lot of talent.
And I imagine over the next few months we will get WWE going to these talents. We know, as you said, they do want to lock them in at big money deals.
But it's about meeting in the middle, right, as well. And some talents maybe want to try the creative freedom of another promotion. So we've got to, money isn't always going to be the be-all, end-all for some people.
And the other thing they've got to factor into it is the money aspect for WWE. Because we mentioned AEW TV rights deals, but WWE is also trying to get a new TV rights deal for Raw. And that will play a factor in the amount of money. And from a report from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it does state that Triple H and Nick Khan were hoping for $400 million per year for Monday Night Raw. However, analysts have predicted it's likely closer to $387 million.
Which initially I went, well, it's close. And I went, no, it's not. It's $25 million.
No, less than 13 million. We've got 13 million difference in there. So it's close, but that's 13 million. That's like 7 Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
7, almost. I'm not good at maths. It continues and says that for most of the period of negotiations, FX was leading the pack in terms of where it was likely going to go. Alongside that, though, Netflix, USA, Warner Brothers Discovery, and Amazon Prime were all being talked about. However, we know that Warner Brothers Discovery has AEW.
Yes.
And apparently, Nick Khan went to meet with Warner Brothers Discovery, and they turned him down.
Yeah, so I think if WBD were going to sign WWE while they've got AEW, it would be very much like an ECW on TNN style deal where it's like, we're just going to sign these guys instead. See,
It's a little bit odd, right?
I can't see them doing it to somebody the size of AEW.
Especially with how they're so linked with AEW.
Yeah.
They've got the TNT title, they've got the TBS title. There's been a lot of speculation that they've maybe got a bit more of, they're very invested in AEW in multiple ways.
Certainly we've seen the way they were promoting AEW, the way that whenever we have sort of the season lineups and we do the big celebratory events and the conventions where they're really pushing out all their content for the year, AEW always has a very big sort of prominent position in that. They're always very happy to be pushing it. And,
they announced Collision right at their their earnings call, and they had a big thing about this is what we're doing, this is the new show. They also have all the programs get advertising spots on AEW.
It's no surprise they turned him down, but I'm kind of annoyed. Like, it's the one thing that will get me to get Netflix again.
Yeah, is that
it'd be like if I can watch it live, or I can watch it, like get up at 6 a.m. and watch it before I come to work.
Yeah, I feel like
it's like you've got to stay up super late, and you've got to, and that's the thing. It's obviously this is for US TV rights, but if it lands on FX, then it would likely go to Hulu or Disney Plus as an on-demand service. Potentially, we also have there's FX channels I think still rolling out, so it could be sort of internationally. If it was to expand, we may see it across FX.
I imagine we're getting pretty soon, or pretty close to when a deal will be inked for Raw's future TV rights, and we'll keep you updated.
Do you know what else was inked though, Fraser?
What was inked?
Do you know what else was inked? According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, CM Punk cannot say anything about certain people in AEW because both parties have signed several NDAs, which prevent them from talking about each other publicly, which means there's something juicy there. Not that we didn't know there was something juicy there, but it's no surprise. I mean, it's probably the cleanest way to make that break happen is, right, okay, you don't talk about us, we don't talk about you, tatty bye, sign this, done deal.
Especially, and I think this is a nice clarification for a lot of people that on Raw were expecting him to come out and scorched earth AEW.
Yeah, we were expecting sort of the X-Pac situation when he returned from being sick in the NWO, and they just gave him a hot mic and went, go off on Eric Bischoff for 10 minutes, mate.
Whatever you want. But CM Punk obviously was quite restrained in that promo, and it looks like his restraints.
He's finally home. Finally.
Yeah, the CM Punk has come back because he's got NDAs signed. So he can't say anything about people in AEW. I'm not surprised, again, if you look at when he left WWE back in 2014, he did go and cut a big podcast that caused a lot of issues.
To be honest as well, I think WWE sort of past that point now. Like, they're very much, I think ever since TNA onwards, it's like, if it doesn't concern us, we just pretend it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
So I think that looks better than kind of shooting across the bow.
It doesn't it? It's more professional.
Yeah.
But staying with AEW and specifically CM Punk's firing and the things that are relating to that, Wrestling Observer gave us an update on Bryan Danielson's involvement in CM Punk's firing. It says that the decision was obviously made by Tony Khan, but Khan consulted with different sets of people, saying the footage of what happened was available, and both internal counsel and someone hired from the outside recommended it, as in firing Punk. As did Danielson, who Khan is very close to when it comes to creative, and has a lot of input in particular on Collision. Danielson confirmed his role last night during an appearance on the Maggie and Perloff show and said, yeah, I'm part of the disciplinary committee, and clearly what's happened has happened. I'm somebody who, I liked CM Punk. I thought he brought a lot to AEW. There's not a lot I can say about it and that I really want to say about it, but I am part of it. However, he did deny the initial reports that he was the head of said committee and was the person bringing down the ruling on that one. He did admit that most people involved were lawyers.
I think in terms of when people see him as the head, I think it's more he may be the head in terms of like the locker room side of things, right?
Yes.
But you're never going to consult with Daniel Bryan over a team of lawyers, right? In a situation, because I mean, when it all kicked off, remember, there was a huge investigation. It got to the point where it was comically extended and everybody was like, what's happened to the investigation, Tony? It takes time. And, bringing in all these external factors, bringing in lawyers, having somebody else go over everything, poring over the information they've got. It's sort of like doing an investigation, right? So,
So it's... And I said it the other day on the news video, in most companies, in most businesses, when you've got a situation that's being investigated, Tony Khan can't be involved in that panel.
No.
Because he's involved in the incident.
Yeah.
So you need to have
conflict of interest and all that,
exactly.
Right?
You need to have someone that represents the employees to give them a peer review of aspects.
Well, it'd be like, right, me and you having a scrap, and there's few details of it, but we both got a black eye, right? And we're both angry at each other, don't want to talk to each other. I couldn't be on the panel to be going like, well, as somebody who started the company. I want to sit here like I'm involved. So it's no surprise that it was out of Tony's hands.
So Danielson being on the panel to come to that decision, him confirming it there. It's nice to have a little bit of transparency in that, because we don't actually know too much of how that firing came to be.
And we don't really know much about AEW's structure. I think we've got we're kind of blessed with WWE being the age it is, because it's sort of, you've heard so much through, well, there's the talent relations and you've got this and you've got that. And their structure's very out there and it's very open, but AEW's is it's close to the chest. So it's interesting to hear that there's factors on all sides involved on the AEW's.
Well, that is all the news we've got for you just now. We'll be back later on today with more wrestling news, because the news never stops. Sam, we've got a lot of documentary stuff coming out. It's Doc-sember.
It is Doc-sember, isn't it? It's Doc-sember the 2nd.
We've got a Rise and Fall coming out.
We do.
Rise and Fall of, should we say it? Alberto Del Rio. So tune in for that one.
I mean, that's going to be juicy as. We've got there's a big surprise one at the end of the month. We've announced already, but if you've not seen, it's premiering on Sunday, so tomorrow night, 7 p.m. GMT. The first episode of a 4-part in-depth mega series on the sort of the golden age of WWE, how WWE went from being a northeastern territory to being, the sports entertainment powerhouse it is today, the international brand.
Make sure you tune in for both of those things. Sam and Matt have been working incredibly hard on it.
I can't wait to get back on a top 10 list.
There is no better way to spend your Sunday, so tune in for that, and we will see you later on for more wrestling news.